And I literally fell down in class, passed out. And there was a nurse in the class. They took me to the hospital. I didn't know what it was. Now I know what they are, so I just tough it out. Oh, anyway.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the special meeting, Borough of Beach Haven, Friday, June 24th, 2022. It is 4:04. Please stand for the flag salute led by Dr. Davis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building, on the borough website, and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Here.
Dr. Davis?
Here.
Mrs. Rutherford?
Here.
Mayor Lambert?
Here.
Yes. Okay, so today's special meeting is to go through Resolution 147-2022, which is granting a liquor license to Bird and Betty's LLC with special conditions. So last time that we were here, there were concerns by the applicant. We took time to further edit the application, and now we're here to discuss the application, see there's more public here tonight, listen to the public comments, and then move forward with the granting of that liquor license with the special requests. So we have Mayor Lambert and Councilwoman Rutherford live on Zoom. So would either of you like to speak initially regarding the applicant's resolution?
Sure, I'll go. I did not attend the last meeting, but I had the opportunity to view it all on YouTube. And I will be very frank with you. I had serious reservations about allowing teen nights to continue at all, based on the past problems and issues. Out of respect and trust for our chief and our police department, who say gives the kids something to do, someplace to go, I acquiesced with the proviso that we do have the online registration. And the reason we wanted this is because last year there were many, I don't know how many, but there were numerous occasions where kids were turned away, and then they became problematic as they went through the town. They were irate, they stood in line for a while, they were turned away, and kept causing problems for the town. So I thought it would only be fair and a nice compromise to have an online registration system. And we did meet with the owners of these establishments, or in one case, the representative for the owner, and expressed our concern. And back in March with Bird and Betty's, when we met with the manager, we said this is what we would like to do. And we were met with some concerns on their part that said, well, the kids can duplicate anything you try to do online. Well, we've since found out that isn't true. Like, for instance, the borough uses Vitly. It's a moving icon, whatever you want to call it, and it can't be duplicated. And it would be very, very easy for them to use something like that. There was also the concern that it would take quite a while to set up. And we found out that really it can be done in a few hours, less than 24 certainly, when they were willing to do so. It was also a problem in that when the kids were waiting in line to get in, not knowing if they would even get in or not, there was a lot of other businesses having their restrooms overrun. There was public urination, there were noise complaints. And I just think an online reservation system may not be the total answer, but I think it would go a long way to helping. We can do, I think, a lot to help the town and reach a compromise here, because I feel the teen nights, I know they're very profitable for their owners, and I don't have a problem with that, but it's got to be beneficial to the town somehow. And I think, and I hope all of you who have your concerns, I've said it many times, and I hope you do it. Don't just write me, don't just call me. don't stop just me on the street. Please let all council members and our borough manager, Sherry Mason, know of your concern, because I am hearing it quite a bit. And I would like to see if we can make this our compromise. Another concern are the shuttles. We just found out this past week that the shuttles are going to be stopping at 10 o'clock at night. So now how are these kids going to get home? I know Bird and Betty's do run their own shuttle, but I understand that it's a little limited in its range. So if these kids are coming in from the other end of the island, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to get home. It will be their problem. But in the meantime, it may be our problem again. Like I said, I think we need to find a compromise here. And I honestly do not feel an online registration system is too onerous. I think it would help control the number of kids coming in the area. And at first, first few weeks, it may not work real well because they may not know about it. But I know these clubs have a good system of advertising, social media, and everything else, and they should be able to get the word out pretty quickly. It might also limit the number of kids coming into town. Now, for some people, that may seem like that's not a good thing, but I think historically we can see that we've been having problems, and maybe it's not the worst thing that these kids maybe find another place to hang out. Our police department, as we already know, is undermanned, and they are doing the very best they can. But at the end of the day, when you have the traffic, the lines, the noise, I think it's putting an undue burden on them. You know, we do have a problem with the teens gathering, not just on teen nights. We know that. And last summer was pretty tough. And I think if we can be proactive here and go with the online registration, which, like I said, I don't think is a hardship for anybody, and I think will be a help, then that's where I would like to go. And I really feel that that is something I would like to stick with. Definitely have the online registration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Lambert. Councilwoman Rutherford?
Hi, guys. Okay, so I spent a lot of time talking last meeting about this, and just wanted to go over a couple of things. Mayor Lambert specifically spoke about teen night, but I think with the Bird and Betty's liquor license application, we also made some adjustments to the bands. We'd like to see, you know, live band is a duo or less. So I hope that can be a good compromise for them. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, sorry, my notes here. We made some changes to some of the other items on there, so hopefully they will find that agreeable. And then just to specifically speak of teen night. So Mayor Lambert talked about the VIPLE or doing an online registration, you know, and getting the word out to teens. I was surprised, honestly, after we had the meeting with Bird and Betty's to find out that it wasn't just going to be one teen night, it was going to be 2 teen nights. I was under the impression from that meeting that it was only going, and now we're going to have twice the amount of people that you're going to have in lines twice a week. So I know that's your problem, not specifically ours right now, but it will become our problem if we have large amounts of teens standing around without a ticket waiting to get in. So I would like to see that as the option. I did speak at the last meeting that I would be willing to give a chance, but at this point, you know, knowing that there's going to be, you know, this is not specific to just Bird and Betty's, but there will be, for the public to know, there are 14 nights a week in town. That's a lot of teens coming into town, and how we're going to work on getting them out. So I think that was it. I would like to just also know from Bird and Betty's regarding the trolley system, how they're going to manage that, since our trolley is now, or the trolley that we participate in will not be, you know, running after 10 p.m. You know, how they're going to help, you know, herd those children out of here. So not necessarily children, but you know what I mean. So thank you for letting me join by Zoom.
Dr. Davis?
Well, I haven't really prepared a speech. I do think the teen nights do serve a purpose. Kids do need somewhere to go, and they're looking for fun, and there really isn't a lot of places for that age group of children to go to. So I support the teen nights. I also, the shuttle thing is an issue and it's a problem, but for years, there's been teens nights before there were any shuttles. The problem is it's just so many people. We have so many more people here now than we used to in the past, which creates a problem. So, you know, I hate to put a lot of restrictions on places. I think businesses need to succeed. They have a limited time to succeed, and obviously this is a big moneymaker, but maybe the idea of booking the seats ahead of time would save a lot of anxiety. Kids wouldn't come if they knew they couldn't get in. So that does seem to be a good compromise. I'm fairly ambivalent. I see the drawbacks and the good things about teen night both. I think that it's up to the management of the teen night facility to make sure that they don't run into this problem. I think it was very unfortunate they did this on Memorial Day weekend, which is crazy anyway, and probably exacerbated the whole situation. But I also would pretty much support what the police force, our chief and the police force feel about this. I think they have the best knowledge of how to deal with these problems and how bad they really were. I happened not to be here on Memorial Day weekend, so I didn't experience it, but I did get a number of emails from residents, you know, saying Memorial Day weekend was a disaster, just because it was so crowded. So maybe we should stay away from teen nights on big deal weekends like Memorial Day and 4th of July and that sort of thing. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Again, I've said a lot at the last meeting about this. It was my understanding from the chief that it was only on the holiday weekends that he really had a problem with overflow. That's why I was in favor of doing something along the lines of, since they've already agreed not to do the big holiday weekends, to let them go with the trial period, basically, without the online ticket, see how it works with the proviso, and then that if it did fail, we could use the third option to bring it back on administrative charges and make them go to the online ticket. I thought that was an option that, you know, seemed to be favorable. As far as limiting the kids coming to town, I firmly believe whether they're going to teen night or not, they're either going there or they're going to William Butler. So they're coming either way. So it's, you know, I don't know that doing the online ticketing is going to reduce the number of kids in town, because even when there's no teen night, there's still quite a crowd moving up the park and through town. So I'm kind of in favor of maybe trying to do something that way. I do understand the need to try and control the kids in the neighborhood, and I would hope, since the police have been hindered in their ability to conduct their business for the children, maybe the Superior Court Judges could be a little more involved, let's say. I think it would behoove them, you know, we've heard reports that kids are getting rid of the drinking in line, and it's probably not the best look in the world to have a couple of drunk guys, you know, teenagers in your bar while you're serving alcohol. So I think the more proactive engagement, security team has alleviated that. If you're acting out of line in line, you're gone. You can't come. See you later. Get a ride home. And again, this all goes back to the point that Jim was telling us, the chief was telling us that it was just those holiday weekends where there was a real problem. So 3 weekends, I think you said this week. So,
We did add that.
Hmm?
We did add that into the,
well, they are.
yeah, it's in there now.
So as far as the 2 a week, was that how it was last year? Were they running 2 a week last year?
Say, on top of my head, I don't know. I don't want to jump on you, Councilman, but it's only 1 week. I don't know where the 2 came from, but it's.
You're advertising.
You're advertising 2 a week.
Sundays and Wednesdays.
I'm telling you, the licensee is only.
So this is the problem.
They're advertising Wednesday
Yeah,
and Sunday.
it's advertised. It's all over social media. Sunday, Wednesday.
If we could keep that to 1 night a week, I think that would help a lot.
Yeah, it is.
None.
You know,
I looked earlier today, after Chris alerted me to this, and yeah, it's advertised Wednesdays and Sundays.
Is it Bill? 2 nights?
2 nights a week advertised, but that's not what we promised that we would do.
Could I just make a point? I can't hear very well, and when people are in the audience talking and they're not using a microphone, I can't really hear them very well.
Sorry.
So it'd be nice if, if you want to say something from the
yeah,
audience.
let's wait till we have
Yeah.
council comments and then I'll open it up to the public.
Thank you.
Anyway, that's kind of my feel is try to trial period for a few tries and the conditions. We instituted electronic ticketing. It's Colleen pointed out, it's very easy to set up and expensive, so. That's my 2 cents on that subject.
So there's pros and cons of teen night. Everybody wants a place for these teens to go. Everybody wants to come to Beach Haven. However, everybody wants to come to Beach Haven. So all these kids want to come here. They want to hang out. And honestly, I don't see other places that don't have online ordering. If you go to a place, you get a ticket. I'm not gonna drop my daughter off somewhere unless I know she has a ticket to get in, and then I'll come back and get her 2 hours later, or I'll stay, or whatever. The Bird and Betty's has an amazing social media advertising campaign. They're the coolest place to go. Every kid wants to go there. So I need to be more proactive than reactive. And we tried it last year. I sat with the police officers. They're harassed, they're constantly just berated. It's, and I told them I would do my best to make sure that the line was not there. And the line is the problem. Anytime a group of teenagers get together, it's a problem. They walked up my street last night, a group of 20, they knocked over the porta potty for the 3rd time in 2 weeks just to do it. When they're together, unfortunately, the environment that we're in right now, with the Juvenile Reform Act of 2020, our police have no power. It's better if you have a group of over 18 in line because we can enforce it. Unfortunately, we cannot enforce it with the teenagers. We have to like tiptoe around them, making sure we're not being mean to them or hurting their feelings or anything like that. It's the product where we are right now in society. And we have to go, this is the solution that we have is the online ticketing. So I'm supporting the online ticketing. If something happens and it's not working, then we can revisit it. But for right now, we tried it Memorial Day weekend, it didn't work. So we have to move forward with this. I do not want to ban teen night. These kids need something to do, but the line is a problem for me. Yeah, Chief, would you like to make any comments?
Answer questions.
Okay, you wanna wait, I'll open up to the public and then you can answer any questions, is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
better.
All right, so. Yeah, can the applicant like to speak first, please? Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Friday in June in Beach Haven. My name for the record, Samuel Real Jr., Homer Colleen Castleman on behalf of Bird and Betty's licensee. We're here for the renewal. Well, there was. Is it on?
Yeah, raise it up a little.
Oh, there is a little bit. You hear me now?
Better?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, I'll do 15 minutes of stand up. Next show at 11. First of all, we want to thank the council for working with us. You know, this is a corroborative effort. Bird and Betty's, the ownership team is invested in Beach Haven. We've discussed all that last time at length. And we have offered suggestions, made changes. So let me address the 2 outstanding issues and the one that you and the councilwoman, the mayor have hit on this afternoon, which is the teen nights. The chief and I will agree from now till forever that the legislative changes created the law of unintended consequences. We have a problem now dealing with juveniles statewide. especially at the shore in the summer. Why? Because as the chief mentioned earlier, a 14 or a 16-year-old could be drinking a beer or smoking a joint, and there's not a dang thing they can do about it. That's a problem. That's a problem for you. It's a problem for the department. It's a problem for the community. It's a problem for every business, whether they have a liquor license or not. This is not specific to a licensee, a retail consumption licensee. This is a societal problem. We all recognize that. The question is that who bears the burden of that in the context of regulatory schemes? The police department is essentially has its hands tied legislatively. I think we all agree about that. The question is a licensee who holds a privilege by way of a retail consumption license, is it required to pick up the slack? Already, this particular licensee has said, we don't need to hold teen nights, and we don't propose to hold teen nights on holiday weekend. So we're talking about Memorial Day, 4th of July, which I think your draft says if it doesn't fall on a weekend, it's the earlier Monday or the earlier Friday.
Closest to the
The
Friday.
closest Friday to the holiday. And then the other thing being is that one teen night a week, nothing on Labor Day, so that we reduce the maximum crowd. Because the experience is that teen nights the rest of the summer do not approach those 500 numbers. This licensee, even though it has a capacity of 1,300, limits teen nights to 500 downstairs. It provides its outside security company, its professional staff, that makes sure that there's no mixing. And this particular licensee, as all licensees running teen nights, have to go through a number of procedural internal hurdles to prepare for a teen night. Here's the problem with online ticketing. There's absolutely no evidence, and the chief admitted this last week over here, is that we've got to do something, it may not work. Well, simply because everybody recognizes there's a problem and you want to do something doesn't mean that online ticketing is going to do any number of the following things. Control crowds, cut down teens rampaging through the community, or improve the quality of life. What it's going to do is actually slow down the line of getting in. Because why? Because now you have to check the online registration with what the teenager has in his or her possession. And this is already a huge responsibility. Stop and think about it. This is a licensee, a liquor licensee, taking on the responsibility of providing a 2-hour window of opportunity for teenagers to come in. The exposure and the pressure to make those nights work and work well is substantial. Online ticketing, if there was evidence from other communities that it's worked, this is not about going online and buying a ticket to go to a concert someplace. It's not about buying an online ticket to go anywhere. This is about online ticketing for teenagers already to try to come into a teen night. Whether it's people who live in the community, teenagers who live in the community, or teenagers who are coming from other municipalities or even off the island, you're still going to have a number of people who show up without tickets. There's no evidence that that will prevent that from happening. Memorial Day, there was a problem. But the staff of Bird and Betty's, the ownership team, some of whom were there, basically said that we thought we had it under control until we were told by the officers, and I'm not throwing any officer under the bus, that's not my purpose. But it wasn't until they were told to disperse the line that problems began. And people then, the teenagers then circulated throughout the community. The real upside to this is, quite frankly, is that you might impose an online ticketing component for this licensee, where it's one night a week. It may legitimately decide not to hold those teen nights. It doesn't need the added cost, expense, or quite frankly, the aggravation of moving it through. What we have suggested, and I think Councilwoman Rutherford has echoed it in some respect, is look, we have these coming up one a week, see how it goes. If there's the problem because this management team isn't able to make changes that are sufficient for the department or for you, you come back in. You don't need, Councilman, you don't need to bring us in on charges. You simply tell the licensee you want them to come in, you discuss it, and if at that point we need to go with a special condition, you do. Because then you have a better frame of reference and a better factual basis. Right now, you have to have a factual basis for special conditions, and I'll get to that a little better in the ban discussion. But the reality is that you really don't have sufficient facts to act now. You really don't, to be honest. We all recognize there's a problem. We all recognize you have an urgency and you want to deal with it. We all want to deal with it. But I don't think online ticketing is the methodology by which you're going to accomplish that. That's the first thing. The second component is as it relates to the ban. And I thank the council for, coming up with an idea of a duo, a band of not more than two. Here's the dilemma as I see it as an attorney. I'm permitted to have a DJ. Other licensees have bands on their outside decks. So we have, the first thing is that we've got this dichotomy between how we're treating other licensees and how we're treating Bergen Betters. That raises some due process issues. That's for the lawyers to sort of handle that. But more importantly is that there's no evidence. Again, you've got to have a factual basis for a condition. There's no evidence that there's a distinction between the amount of sound generated from a DJ, which is going to be permitted, versus a band, whether it be 2, 3, 4, or 5 pieces, or whatever it may be by way of size. What I would suggest to you is that with the fact that there is no real distinction and there's nothing in your record, so to speak, as it relates to that, the alternative is to simply say to this licensee, listen, you can have a band, but your hours for bands are between 2 and 9 o'clock. Because at 9 o'clock, you stop the band, you stop that noise generation, and you have an hour before your 10 o'clock component of your noise ordinance kicks in, should alleviate problems. I asked for the department and the municipality, Ms. Mason, to provide us through an open request, calls for service. And I did receive them from the captain chief. When looking at them, I basically saw of all the calls that were attributed, I think there were 3 that related to noise. And 2 of them were actually after the season. They were after post-Labor Day last year. There just isn't the component here, the factual component that I suggest makes a distinction between band and DJ. As I think we probably all understand, a DJ can actually crank up that bass more and just drive you through the wall, so to speak. But my suggestion to you is, let's deal with it. But let's deal with it in a reasonable fashion, consistent with what you're doing for other licensees who can have bands without limitations, and those places are not necessarily in a marine commercial district. They are in multifamily residential areas. So why don't we do this? Why don't we put the limitation on the hours of operation for a band between 2 and 9? Why? Because that provides the licensee to have the live entertainment, i.e. a band, but it also addresses impact on the neighboring community. And that would be our suggestion. And if that doesn't work, well, then maybe again, you bring us back in. But we're all trying to be reasonable. We're not, there's no, you don't see me jump up and down or anybody up in arms about this. But we're trying to find a workable solution with you. And we would urge you to consider those things, not including an online ticketing program. There's just no evidence it's going to create a substantial difference in the impact on the community. And secondly, change the language as it relates to live entertainment, from a duo and band type of situation to just, you can have bands between 2 and 9. And that would seem to be a reasonable approach to moving this particular matter forward and getting everybody on the same page. I'll answer any questions. The ownership structure is here. They can answer questions.
I have a question.
Certainly.
What is the objection to the online ticketing? I mean, except that it's a pain in the neck to do. I mean, why is it so much more difficult to manage it if you have online ticketing?
Because 2 reasons. One, there's actually no evidence that it's going to cut down the teenage problem in the community. That's the first. The second is that it actually slows up the process of getting a teenager off the line into the building.
Why?
Because of the necessary steps of having to confirm identities, ages, identifications, things of that nature. What the security staff have told me is that it will drag out the line long.
Well, you
That's
still
all I
have
can
to,
tell you.
you still have to do that anyway. I mean, you have to, when somebody comes in line, you have to show that they are, in that age range and they don't have any alcohol on their body and all that
Right.
sort of thing. I don't really see that it would be that much more difficult. And I haven't done any research on this, but I'm sure some towns probably have online ticketing for this sort of thing. It'd be interesting to kind of find out. You say there's no evidence. It's hard to believe there's no evidence out there, but that's possible. Yeah.
There's no evidence before you. There, I mean, as the chief said, and I agree with him. Everybody understands there's a problem with teenagers running through a community. That's a societal problem. The downside is, as the chief said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. If I get it wrong, you'll correct me.
I'll correct you.
Okay, if I get it wrong, you can correct me. But my recollection is last meeting, he basically said, not basically, he said, he didn't know whether it would work or not, but we've got to do something. That's his words. I accept that. We got to do something. But now you're throwing the onus on licensees to cure a societal problem. That's not a legitimate reason to impose a special condition. Why? Because there's no proof it's going to correct the problem you have, which is teenagers running amok because they feel entitled and there's nothing that the police department can do. That's the answer to the question. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Chris?
Yeah, so my question is about the bands, Mr. Skip. So are you saying, what I'm hearing, it sounds like it sounds like Bird and Betty's establishment would be rather have bands and not live DJ on the deck. Is that what I'm hearing? Do you like the 2 to 9 option? So no. Okay.
No. In fact, what I'm saying is that there's no scientific distinction between sound being generated by a DJ and sound being generated by a band. It's not like we'd rather have a band than not a DJ. That's not what we're proposing. What we're saying is that there's no evidence here. There's no factual basis on which to impose a condition such as this, because there isn't any distinction between sound being generated by a DJ and sound being generated by a band. If there were, there you'd have the basis, but there isn't any sort of basis here to substantiate that. That's why it's a condition that doesn't have a basis. In fact, to impose, I mean, that's sort of, hopefully that answers the question, Council.
Yeah, it does. And then I do wanted to also piggyback on that. So I think in the license, in the liquor license, it talks about where to place the band, and I believe, and the DJ, and I believe y'all spoke to that last week, that you were going to put it in the far corner so that it's not so much in the sound going out into the Bay area. Is that correct?
I would yield to the licensees, one of the licensees,
We're not
because,
changing anything. We're keeping them right where they are.
So-
it's under the,
Okay.
it's
Under
where
the
it has.
pergola or under the
Yeah.
roof, kind of? Okay, I've been there, so I know. So, okay. All right, just curious.
What she was
Thank
mentioning
you.
was that the special condition says the licensee shall arrange music in the covered portion closest to the east side of the building.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand what's in the draft resolution. What I don't know is, I don't have a comment. So I know that the proposal is to continue having the band and the
Bill,
bands
can
and
you
the,
keep your conversation out? I can't hear everything going on.
yeah, I mean, the proposal is to keep the bands and the DJ where they're currently positioned. If that's consistent with the language, then that is, I can't speak to directions.
I don't see anything in here that says you can't have a band. Is there?
Well, it's a limitation on
Number 5.
size, Councilman.
Number 5.
Well, I'm just reading number 5. It says on the outside deck, you have to have a duo.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
But
what
if you're having teen in the disco part of the place, isn't that insulated from noise or?
Yes.
Two separate.
Nancy, the request was, yeah. Go ahead.
Want to clarify, Jean?
Right, so at the last meeting, the applicant originally only had DJs on the outside deck, and they wanted to have live bands.
Okay,
And the compromise was to have what we have here, a duo, no
Okay.
band still.
well, this is on the outside.
On the
I thought
outside
we were
deck.
just talking about
No.
the teen night.
No,
Okay.
the team, the teen night is a
The
separate.
teen night is
Separate
inside
division.
though, so you can
Yes.
have a band. for
Yes,
teen.
that is nothing to do.
So this is a whole different, this is just related to this particular.
This is related to the deck component, not
Yeah,
related, not
just
tied to
Just to
tonight.
clarify too, the other places in marine commercial are not allowed to have DJs or bands on the deck. There's one other establishment, and recently they were approved for a deck, and one of the conditions of the resolution was
That's not me.
They're not in marine.
they're in 3 different zones. Tuckers, they're in marine commercial, they're in 3 different zones. So they were not allowed to have any, or DJs. So I think you're referring to on the ocean side.
The ocean side.
Right.
Yeah.
Which isn't surrounded by residents on.
But neither is Burton Betty's.
Just on the west side, but
On the
for
west
the
side.
majority of,
They
Yeah.
are.
Okay. Anyway, but the proposal is, again, ban 2 to 9 seems to be a reasonable compromise to make everybody happy and to improve the quality of life issues in the community, to the extent, to whatever extent they may be impacted.
I have
Not
no
unreasonable.
problem with that, but there's a limit to the amount of noise you can even have, you know, when it's not the quiet time. I mean, I've been to places where they have a band outside and it's fine, you know, a lot of places. And, but if you turn when you amplify it too much, even if it is at 3 in the afternoon, it can really be annoying. So, and we don't really have any way to set the number of amps you can use. We've been through this a million times for years. There's every police officer would have to be specially trained, and it becomes a nightmare. So I personally have no objection to a band outside from 2 to 9. But I would do object to music that goes for blocks. I mean, there are people living on boats over at Morrison's or people down the block. I mean, it depends on how loud you have the music.
Well, my response to that is that you do have in your code, because I've read it, you have the model NJDEP ordinance.
We have
For
an
noise.
ordinance that basically leaves it up to the discretion of the police officer. I believe, am I correct with that? Yeah.
And then the question is, I don't know whether the municipality has any of the trained control officers for noise. No, okay.
That becomes a problem.
We would utilize the health department
Right.
for that.
But the reality is that, again, you're not without options. If there is a pattern that develops of noise, I mean, let's be honest, if there's a pattern of noise complaints that erupts, that are substantiated type of thing, you know, the investigation is showing the officers that there's a noise problem, you bring them in. I mean, this happens in every municipality in New Jersey. I mean, I will tell you that in the city of Camden, licensees get noticed on a regular basis to come in because we're having quality of life issues, and they bring them in and they work it through and they come to some agreement. And you don't need administrative charges to do that. You have that authority. It's your license. All I'm simply saying is that, you know, let's take it by the steps that make the most sense. And, you know, then the responsibility is on the licensee, which is what you want anyway, right? So that's our thought.
Sherry, I have a question.
Yes,
I'm sorry, sir. I did not catch your name. My apologies.
Skip Real.
Rial, Mr. Rial. You mentioned that one of your number one concerns was the fact that we don't know for a fact that an online registration would work. And you're right. But we also don't know that it won't work. And I think my question is that since we have done it the other way for the last couple years, and we have had problems, Memorial Day weekend, we had problems. And I know Memorial Day was very crowded, but let's face it, you're probably going to get more kids in the middle of July or at least the same numbers you'll have on Memorial Day. So I'm still trying to figure out why this is a problem, because it seems to me this is a very fair compromise to try and keep the kids and the number of people in check and let these businesses prosper. And, and again, as Dr. Davis pointed out, once you get their ID, it's just a matter of scanning that code. So this should not take any additional time. And I'm having a hard time understanding why it's a burden on the business to undertake this.
Let me.
I'm going to yield to the ownership team. Let them respond to that, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Melanie Magaziner, 529 Dock Road, Bird and Betty's. Mayor, one of the problems I foresee is the way you have it worded in our liquor license is that everyone has to have a ticket to come to teen night. Do any of you really think that's going to prevent kids from coming? And I'm going to turn them away when they don't have an online ticket.
I think that.
And the problem is me turning them away now. And if you think that social media and I have a great presence, if you think that people listen to that, they don't. No matter what we put out there, no matter how many rules we put for adults, teens, whatever age, they don't listen.
But
They
they
do
could
not.
buy one in line if you didn't have 500, Mel. I mean, I'm just making that statement.
So
because
now you want me to go through the line, make sure they all have a ticket, check in with each one of them,
No, you're just
have them
scanning it
pay
at the
for
door.
it while they're online. You do see a little bit of a problem with the way you have it worded, that they have to have a ticket to come is a problem.
Can they buy it? Now, I have a question. If, let's say, you have set a limit of 500 people. So you let people in, let's say some of the kids leave before the end, you let more people in then? So it continues, like as people leave, say a party of 5 walks out the door.
We used to, but the chief told me I wasn't allowed to do that Memorial Day weekend. He said no one in, one out.
But I mean, if you did it on.
And we
regular-
wouldn't have had people getting turned away if we had been allowed to do that. And we do that.
I mean, so somebody leaves and that gives you 5 extra people that can go in.
Yeah. And we used to do it up until 10 o'clock when we were supposed to have that side, Dock Road side cleared out.
So.
But the chief
so
didn't want
people
us
are
to
gonna be
do it.
Waiting around hoping that maybe people will leave to get in.
Yes. But we really only were at capacity on the holiday weekends.
So you're telling me, remember.
I mean, in August, if we have 200 kids, it's a
You're
lot.
telling me that the average number of kids you have on a regular night is how many?
And the average, I would
Yeah.
say in July, 400, in August, about 200. On holiday weekends, we hit capacity.
So by eliminating holiday weekends, we'd be eliminating a lot of the problem. is what You're basically.
I think so. I mean, it's hard to say if town's going to be busier this year. I hope it is. I would love that personally. But, I think the 1 in, 1 out will help. We did Chief, we did a good job with the line while they were waiting. We had 4 security guards out there, like he asked. I was out there. Billy was out there. My manager was out there. We don't let anyone even drink water online. If they have a water bottle, we take it. We don't have to be sweet with them like the police have to be. We can be as mean as we want with them. And if they don't like it, they can leave. So our security, no bags, no hats, no water bottles online. We're very strict. We take their bags as they come in.
So what do you check? They check their bags and they get them on the way out?
The online tickets, if they have to have one, it's not going to prevent them from coming. It's not. They're still going to be there. And they're going to be angry when I say you have to buy a ticket and their mom dropped them off and they don't have a credit card. They're going to go around town and there's still going to be a problem. So,
How do you know that they haven't been drinking before they came?
I mean, if they seem drunk, they're not allowed in.
Yeah, well, I guess you just have to.
Just like with adults, if they seem drunk, they're not allowed in. Our security screens them the way they walk, their eyes, Teenagers aren't as good at hiding being drunk. And I just want to address the band thing, just so we're clear. I wanted to have one band during the day on the 4th of July. And I thought it would be better for me to ask permission than to just do it. And because we got to this point with everything else in the liquor license, here we are discussing it. I didn't want it to be this. All I wanted was one band on the 4th of July. That's it. during the day. Right now, there's a 6-piece band outside at the Sandbar. Tonight, there's a 3-piece band outside at the Seashell. We don't do that.
Well, that's a separate thing.
We don't do that at night. We don't have full bands outside at night. We don't see any need to. We just have our DJs, Chris Fritz, Chimaires. Once in a while, there's 3 guitars. That's it. We just wanted to have the B Street Band because we thought it was a very cool 4th of July thing. That's it. That's all I wanted.
Council allowed to do?
Well, that's why I asked, is there like a waiver? I mean, really, in all due respect, you guys said it had to do with the 90s and
Can
Michael
we amend the
Batista.
ordinance? I mean, personally, I have no problem with having an outdoor band if the amplification isn't too high, and if you stop it at 9 o'clock.
Why didn't we said, I said
I
2 to
mean,
6.
I think it's much classier than a DJ, and I totally agree, a DJ can be noisier than a band.
But this is both. This isn't like one or the other. Just realize that.
What, you can't change that number 5?
No, we can.
No, you
Okay,
can.
But
The
they're, yeah,
resolution
they were,
previously prohibited, in the past, the resolution specifically prohibited bands.
Okay,
So as a compromise, the council went back with a duo.
okay.
so I know the chief wants to speak on this. Chief, you wanna speak on this, please?
Just real quick, yes, I did say that I wasn't sure if doing an online ticketing would solve the problem. And that is true. I don't know if it would solve all of the problems, but as proof that online ticketing works, you can't go to any event, a concert or anything like that, anywhere at any arena or anything like that without an online ticket. You can't go up and wait in line because they know that there's problems when, 500 people are waiting in line for a ticket and only a certain amount get in. So that's proof that that would work. And I'm not opposed to the other wording where we give them a chance to make sure this works. And then if it doesn't work and we continue to have problems, we do the online ticketing. But as proof that that's what I would say is that you really can't go to even the sporting events over at the high school. This year we had to get online tickets. They didn't want people walking in. You had your online ticket, you had it on your phone, you walked up, and as you walked up, they scanned it and you kept walking. You didn't slow up at all. It was much faster than getting money out of your pocket and handing it to somebody and getting change back. And they've said at the last meeting, they do not ID people. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. They don't ID people unless they look like they're well over the age of as a teen. The special conditions were always specific to a certain location. So that location had problems in the past with noise, and that's why those special conditions were put in for the bands. And yes, that's why we've only had 3 noise complaints down there, if that's what the number was. I didn't read the each one, but so that shows that those special conditions have worked in that area. Does anybody have any questions for me for anything that was said?
No, I also read the report of how many calls go to each establishment. And it was, there was a lot of calls on Sunday night there as well. So is that,
Teen nights are always a lot of calls.
I mean,
Teen nights are our busiest, whenever we have teen nights are our busiest
there's
location, no matter what.
over 65 calls.
Yeah. We have officers down there the whole night, and we might have had 65 things that were entered in the CAD, but there was way more than that, because officers deal with things, whether it's 2 people arguing, they just tell them cut it out, go your different ways, and they don't call that in. So not everything gets a CAD ticket.
Right.
Most things that get CAD tickets are things where you need multiple officers responding, first aid calls, those type of incidents. So not everything that happens because of a teen night gets a CAD number. So the numbers are higher than but we have officers stationed down in that area taking care of most of the problems.
Right, and we try to get about 30 summer officers. Is that the number?
I think this year we were approved for 34, and I think I have 16.
Right, so we have, okay, so that's also the concern, that we have, that we're pretty stretched in the summer. officers as well.
Mhm.
And again, with the summer officers, I want them to also, I want them to enjoy to be a police officer. You know, last night or the night before, I saw them playing baseball at Taylor Avenue with a bunch of kids from town. And, you know, they looked like they were enjoying being a police officer, being with the community, and that's the experience. They're going to have other nights, but I want them to have a more positive experience here.
We do the same things down at Butler Park. The summer officers go into the park, talk with the kids. It kind of helps build rapport.
Right.
You know, so they don't think we're out there, it's, you know, us against them. So we do a lot of that community policing type of stuff with that. The one thing that with teen night that we noticed is that you're still going to have the same amount of kids in town down at Butler Park and stuff like that. Some of those kids on teen nights will go to the two locations for teen nights. But we also have a lot of people who come into town specifically for teen nights that wouldn't be down at the park otherwise. The other thing with teen nights is it just, you know, like I said, it's our busiest location. You could have any bar in town that serves alcohol. Dealing with that is nothing compared to just the amount of presence it takes for us dealing with teen nights. So like I said, I'm okay with if the council wanted to give them the opportunity, you know, for that the reworded special condition to give them the opportunity in case they can fix it on their own. That'd be great. I think if they're able to fix it on their own by not doing it on holiday weekends, I think that's a win for everybody. But the next step, I think, would have to be either online ticketing mandatory or getting rid of teen nights altogether. Anything else?
Anything else from Chief? No? Thank you. Okay, does the applicant want to speak again, or I'm going to open it to public comment from the rest of the?
Oh, yeah, there is a thing. Sorry.
Billy Meal, 529 Dock Road, Bird and Betty's. Apologies for my appearance. It's been a hectic day. I just talked to my contact with Long Beach Township, and they confirmed that they will be providing the buses for us if we continue with teen night. They said that they're going to be reducing their schedule, which was brought up. I want to address that they will still provide for us.
Just on those nights?
Hold on.
That's the town
Yeah.
in concert with our shuttle as well. We run that for the restaurant every night. That there is a need for it, but I just wanted to, since it was brought up that we wouldn't have the township buses, in fact, we do. So,
Good.
all right, thank you.
Council President,
Wait, hold on. Can I clarify? I just wanted to clarify that. You're telling me that the Bird and Betty shuttle will run in township, or that the LBI shuttle will be running on teen nights until 11 o'clock?
Long Beach Township committed that they will have 2 buses there for teen night for us at that hour.
For just you, for you all, for Bird and Betty's specifically?
For the,
At the close.
at the close of teen night, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I understand that there's a schedule change for the township shuttle. We aren't involved in that. And our, as said, in concert with our Bird and Betty shuttle as well.
How many people is
Okay.
supported the show?
18, I believe. It's not as large, but it does run throughout the night. And we do see a trickle out effect with the teens. I will say, since I'm on hand at Bird and Betty's, I speak with the chief all the time. We appreciate their officers being there for us for non-teen night things daily. They're always across the street there for us. So thank you for that. The majority of teens that I see leaving mostly are getting in the car with their parents. We do have a solid crew that gets on the township buses and our bus. Or they walk off, which we can't force them on the bus, but we do provide that for them. And the township also says that, you know, if we have the need for more, they will circle back. And if we see bigger nights, I can call them and have a third bus if they can scramble that and coming down.
Just
So,
out of
we should-
curiosity,
yes.
do you ever have problems with the kids on the buses? Are they pretty well behaved?
It has not made it back to me that they've had issue with them. No. And we run a series of buses for all of our establishments, and, you know, obviously people who have been enjoying the bar are taking those, and, you know, they all seem very, you know, there's gratitude that we have that service for them. Thank you.
Okay, would anybody like to speak on this issue? Please come up and state your name. And then.
State your name and address for the record, please.
John Carullo, 110 7th Street. I'm here to speak for the Beach Haven Taxpayers Association. I have a comment and a question. As residents, we have to sort of tolerate these problems. The police department has to deal with them. And if they think an online ticketing system would work better, then that's what we should do. And at this point, as far as the speed with which you can get people into the building, you know, it's not a big leap today for a barcode on a ticket and you hold it up, as the chief alluded to. So we think that since we don't know that it won't work, then try it. And the question I have is, if the concern is about turning kids away.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just please direct comments to council.
Okay.
We can't allow it to step back.
If the concern is about turning kids away, I have a teenage granddaughter who has gone to these teen nights. Well, if that same teenage granddaughter went to a regular old Saturday night and walked up to the bar to get a drink, she couldn't produce ID that she's 21. She'd have to be turned away. So why is it a bigger problem with a teen night than any other night? That's my question.
I could answer that question. When you have 1,000 people waiting in line and 500 are turned away and they get really angry because they drove from Manahawkin or Gordon White to come down to teen night, then they might react negatively. A kid that goes into a bar with an fake ID or underage and they're turned away, they know they're literally committing a crime. I mean, it's against the law, and it usually doesn't happen in huge numbers. I mean, maybe 2 or 3 kids come in and try to get in the bar, but we're talking about big lines with lots of people being turned away. I think that's what happened in
The bottom line is you can't enforce any rules.
Well, it's hard to enforce a lot of stuff.
Damiani.
Margaret Damiani, 112 West Avenue. So as far as the online ticket sales, I think that if it were advertised that it was online ticket sales only, that would prevent people from coming down to wait in line, and therefore they could go elsewhere wherever they wanted to go. And that would be helpful. And then the online ticket sales are easy. You go to any concert nowadays, anything you get into, you buy the ticket online and that's that. So that's as far as the online tickets go. The other thing is the noise. Since they've renovated the deck, I have a copy of the resolution here. It was supposed to be renovated with only, the decking will remain open, but for a canopy and pergolas, and shall not be enclosed. So I don't know if you've looked at Bird and Betty's deck, but it has roofs, walls, and windows. So the fact that those roofs hold the sound and then create a speaker, it just makes the sound unbelievable. And I have a little video from last night at 11:30. Now, last night was Thursday night. That's their slowest night of the week because everybody's at Thunder Thursday. And this is about 250 feet away. Let me see if I can get it to play here. That's standing 250 feet away. This is their quietest night of the week. On teen night, when they have the deck open to people to drink, the music's blaring to cover up the inside teen night. So literally my windows are shaking. So the sound is not in the Beach Haven ordinance section that they're supposed to be abiding by. I know we don't have a way of measuring, as the chief said, but the sound is a huge issue. And the fact that they built the building out of code. It was supposed to be with pergolas and with canopies, and they have roofs, walls, and windows. That creates the speaker. So I think if they were to get a band, there's no way to control that sound. At least if we call and complain, they can turn it down. But when you have a band out there, it's just going to be a blaring mess. So the fact that they keep the deck open for alcohol consumption and try to drown out the noise of teen night makes Sundays just unbearable. I can't even hear when I have a two-person band playing at my little place, playing a guitar. I can't even hear them when I walk out on the deck because it's overrun by the Bird and Betty's noise. And that's really about it. I just, the music and the sound is just unbelievable down there. And it's wrong that everybody who lives down there is in the neighborhood has to fully just accept that Bird and Betty's is the loudest place. That's not right. And then with the teen nights and the people puking and peeing, and they're always coming into our bathrooms or going behind our dumpster to pee or puke, it's not enjoyable for us. So we really think that a controlled line would be much better. The online sales would be great. If they would advertise that, then there wouldn't be a line. There'd just be people coming that have their ticket already. That's it. Thank you.
Deb Whitcraft, 528 Dock Road, Beach Haven. I had a question on the teen night, and by the way, I agree with the ticket reservation system. I think not only will it better help to know what the numbers are coming into the place, but also the parents have a better idea where their kids are going, because in many cases, these kids are going to have to go through their parents to pay for their ticket to go to Bird and Betty's. At least their parents will know where they are. So there's absolutely no negatives with regard to online ticket sales. And kids are very tech savvy these days. They'll have no problem doing that. I mean, it may eliminate a cash, business for the owners of the establishment. Like I said at the last meeting, 500 kids, it's $12,500. They would much rather have it in cash than they would in online sales. And, let's face reality on that. As far as the teen night goes, teen night, I understand, ends at midnight, correct? Teen night ends at 11? 9 to 11. All right, so the curfew, I thought in here it said, I'm sorry? So it's not midnight.
No, the Marlins might end at closer to midnight, 11:45.
All right, I mean, because in here it says teen night, when offered shall end no later than 12 a.m. Well, and this is last year's liquor license. If teen night ends at midnight, the curfew starts at midnight. So any of these teens between the ages of, 16 to 18, whatever it is, they're violating curfew as soon as they walk out the door. So why does this say that they can have teen night up until midnight?
I thought it was 9 to 11, right?
I'm reading on one. You see where it says midnight?
I know that the thought was to get it to as close as midnight as possible, so there is no time to get into the car with mom, dad.
But that's a problem with it. There is an automatic violation of a curfew. If you're allowing teen night to end no later than 12 a.m., that has to be changed. You can't do that
That's
without.
obviously something wrong with it, because in one place it says 9 to 11, and the other place, we have to fix it.
Well, I know what this says. This is resolution 167, 2021 from last year. So you're going to have to change how long teen night can last. But one,
Resolution 147.
and that says what time?
It says 12 a.m.
Well, so you can't keep it at 12 a.m. without everyone violating curfew. And another thing, we were there, and I'm speaking for the first aid squad now, and this has nothing to do with teen night. But we were there on Saturday, June 18th at 12:44 a.m. And our entire police department was there as well. We had so many violently ill people. They were not teens. I mean, they were people in their early 20s puking up their guts. We had people in the street, public urination. We had bar fights going on all over the place. And although they say they're not supposed to, be carrying any containers outside. They were. Now, to their credit, security there is very good under Troy's, I guess Troy is the manager and he is very good. But most of the security people there were kids. I mean, they were around the age of the people leaving the bar and they were overwhelmed. And our poor police department, I think we had the entire department there that night and they were just all over the place. And, you know, I asked if Troy was there. They said he wasn't there, but I have never seen anything. We have bar problems all over the town, but I have never seen it worse than it is down there. And my sympathy goes to our police department because there's no way that they can adequately deal with the issues going on there. The people are just loaded in the streets at 2 a.m. and the people who live on 2nd Street, they've got them in their yards. They've got all kinds of stuff going on. I live there. I mean, people who say that this isn't happening, they need to go down there and see for themselves because it's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Anderson, 1001 West Avenue, Beach Haven. Everybody's in a pickle. Oh, I gotta look this way. You guys are trying to do the best for your town. You're trying to do the best for your business. I hope you will consider maybe limiting the number of teens to teen night. And given the fact that we don't have enough policing and the fact that kids can get away with all kinds of things nowadays, I think it's a safety issue. And I don't think Beach Haven, honestly, bottom line is, if it doesn't work, next teen night. You just hear too many problems. I don't know why you'd want to continue it. So drop the numbers down, do the ticketing, and see how that goes. And if it doesn't, don't be afraid to next teen night. Sorry. And one other thing, if you're watching on Zoom, I encourage you to email the council people with your opinion and speak up. Let them know how you feel.
Yeah, Jeannie Carullo, 110 7th Street. I just want to say I'm totally in support.
You need to get up to the
She
microphone to talk.
She can't. It's really hard.
Oh, you can't?
Yeah. John, can you help her?
Can't get to the microphone?
No, all I want to. Sorry about that. I just want to say, I'm totally in support of teen night. They need something to do. I do have a granddaughter who enjoys it. It seems like Beach Haven's trying to make this a miserable place instead of a happy place. And I just wanted to say that. I loved Beach Haven. I've been down here since I'm 6. Let's keep it a happy island. It seems like everything you do is to make it unhappy. I think the idea of teen night is great. And, you know, whatever you need to do, I don't know if ticketing them is going to make a difference. The kids are going to still show up. The fact that there's bad behavior afterwards has nothing to do with that. They're going to have bad behavior if they're not disciplined at home. The police can't do anything. I work as the PI at home and I see what happens. We have great security, but it's a parent problem, a people problem, not a teen night problem. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Billy Meal, Bird and Betty's. I just had to address what Ms. Whitcraft said. Her recap of that evening was drastically inflated. I'd say over the line. There was 2 individuals that overindulged and did throw up outside. EMTs were not called for them. They were called for someone else who was having an adverse reaction to something she took on her own. And the reason the EMTs were called is because she was having a domestic dispute in the parking lot with her boyfriend. And the Class 1 officers then called the EMTs. There were no fights. That should all be public record that we can look it up, but I needed to address that very colorful reinterpretation of the evening. I was at the front door. Our security guards had it under control the entire time. They cleared out an area. We moved ropes around the 2 young ladies that were waiting for their parents. And the parents were called by our security guards because They did not have anyone to look after them or get them home, and they could not get an Uber. So that's why that was drawn out. The MTs then came over because they were dealing with the other person that the class ones called. So just wanted to clear that up. Thank you.
Is there anyone on Zoom that wanted to speak to this? Anyone in the public?
Any member of the public on Zoom wish to be heard for the renewal of the liquor license for Bird and Betty's? You can raise an electronic hand. Michael Peeler? You can unmute yourself, state your name and address for the record.
You want to see me too?
Of course we do.
Okay. Michael Peeler, sort of kind of 208 North Bay Avenue.
Okay.
Now I got a call from Bill this morning, and he told me what was going on. And I just thought I would throw my 2 cents in because I still care about the town. I still love the town. I still want what's best for the town. You need to realize that we are a destination. And above all, it's important that all our businesses are successful. I don't think you realize that you are, not knowingly, but it appears you're almost penalizing people for being successful. And these people with their Bird and Betty's and their restaurant group, the Tide Table group, are very successful. And if the online tickets was a way to make their operation even smoother, they would have already been doing it. Because everybody says how smooth it appears to be, and it could be, and everything, that doesn't make it so. And I don't get what what's going on with the police's hands are tied when dealing with young people. I can understand verbal aggression. We have a thing in this country called free speech. But if they get out of line, if they're disturbing the peace, I think they have body cameras. So there is a limit. I think it's time we get this into court and challenge this. To say that the police have their hands tied and can't do anything is a bit much. We all have problems with teens, and I don't see how to change anything or change their behavior except for actions have consequences. Other than that, let them try to work it out, how they want to do it. They realize it's a problem. It's probably easier for them to just give it up, but let them try to solve the problem their way. And Godspeed to everybody.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else on Zoom wish to be heard for this matter? You can raise an electronic hand, or you can star 6 and state your name and address for the record.
Anyone in the room like to speak?
Well, again, for the record, Samuel Real Jr., Helmer, Connolly, Caswell on behalf of the licensee. Couple observations. The first is that Bird and Betty's did not do their construction after the approvals, contrary to the approvals, and they have a CO. They have not done any construction on the deck that was not previously approved, and in fact has been inspected and approved by the municipal code enforcement. That's the first thing. Second thing is that, this isn't about what happened in 1991. It's not about what the prior ownership did. as I think we're all aware, the prior ownership before the sale was in risk of losing the license, having the license revoked because of the activities that were going on there. That's then. This is a new ownership structure, and as I guess Mr. Pillar commented on, this is a group of owners who take their responsibilities seriously, and their operations are done as best they're able to with the circumstances they all deal with as in being in business. The final thing is that, and it's one of those things that has no place here. Somebody stood up just now and spoke that, well, I guess they wish they would have cash instead of taking credit cards. The implication of that is, well, they're skimming money. That's offensive. It really is. As an attorney, as an individual in the community type of thing, this is about whether live bands are an appropriate use as an entertainment function for a licensee, as we suggest, between 2 and 9 p.m. It's not about, somebody saying, well, they're taking cash at the door, with the implication being that, it's like 1 for the government and 2 for me. That's offensive. The second component of it is that this is a licensee that is here to work with you. There has been nothing that's been belligerent or hostile or in trying to generate a conflict. We're all trying to get to the same place, which is having a community that has an active tourism economy succeed. And they are an element of that success and of that economy. So our suggestion to you has been, as it relates to the 2 issues that remain, are 1, that you have the authority to bring us back. We don't need online ticketing. We just don't think it's going to work. And we haven't really seen anything that says it's going to work. And it's not going to stop people from coming into town. That's the first thing. The second thing is that we think the reasonable accommodation for everybody in the context of live entertainment, since we really can't distinguish between a DJ and a band, is to just simply say you can have bands on the deck, but you can't have them beyond 9 o'clock. You can have them between 2 and 9. That's where we think we are. I know that Mr. Burris has several comments to make on behalf of the ownership group, and I would yield whatever time I have left to him. Thank you.
William Burris, 100 Northwest Avenue, Beach Haven. Some confusion on our part. We've previously discussed that we would do 1 teen night. That advertisement that was put together before we basically came to that conclusion and had discussions. Members of the council at the last meeting talked about a trial period. Dan Allen, you talked about it tonight. I think that's a good idea. I don't know if online ticketing makes sense or it doesn't make sense. I'm not smart enough to know that. I know that when I go to a place, the chief said you buy tickets, but we're talking about people that don't necessarily, they're not of age. They don't all have phones. They travel in crowds. And like Mel said before, we're going to be turning people away who don't have tickets. And turning people away is what started this problem apparently in the first place on Memorial Day weekend. With us basically not having the ability to do 1 in, 1 out like we've been doing in the past, and basically sending a bunch of people home who were having hissy fits, as we're being told in the streets. That obviously doesn't work. It's, people who stand up, these are people who filed suits against us at the beginning of this year to not be able to open Bird and Betty's, because they felt that we didn't have the proper approvals. We didn't have the proper construction documents. I had thought we'd moved past all of that. Yet, 2 weeks ago, Mr. Vogel's at Town Hall making demands of people in community development about plans and windows that we're putting in, and all this stuff is on our plans. We're not doing anything we're not supposed to do. It's not our intention, and we don't really fly that way. We're aggressive business people for sure, but we don't want to do the wrong things. We have our own security team. We have a professional security team. And when some nights our security team is bigger than the Beach Haven Police Force. And that's just because that's what we think it needs to be. And I think for the most part, we've tried to work closely with the Beach Haven Police, but there are issues that arise, like 2 people fighting outside. That kind of stuff happens. But for the most part, we as business people in this town, I think we're the largest business and largest employer. We're conscientious. We're all involved in everything that goes on, and we want to do a good job. We're not trying to get away with anything. This concept about noise complaints, and Mrs. Damiani stood up here about us making noise. She started with live music on Sunday nights a couple years ago. It's pretty annoying to me, but I didn't make any noise complaints. She's my neighbor. I didn't feel like, that was the right thing for me to do. But it's loud. I've never said anything. I'm just dealing with it. People that are peeing and puking in their parking lot are her own employees. I watch it. I see it from my house. I'm not here to point fingers. But that's the kind of, commentary that we have to live with, in a public forum. All I can tell you is that we mean what we say and we say what we mean. It doesn't get any simpler than that. I don't have a bunch of employees that we throw black shirts on and call it security. We have a professional security company who are very responsible, and they answer to us, and we tell them to do their job. I don't know how else to put it. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else in the room that would like to speak on this issue? Seeing none?
Should we all make a comment?
I guess.
Okay, we'll start. I agree with my friend Jeannie. I like to see Beach Haven as a happy place. And I was a kid at one time, in the dark ages, but kids need places to go, and they need places where they can meet other kids their age. So I really think that the teen nights do serve a purpose. There's a couple things that I think we need to clarify. You're only doing one teen night a week. Is that okay? So that's clear. I understand people that have noise problems because I live near the Shell. I've gone through a lot of agony with, having a bar a block away and the noise. So I understand how people feel. And it's all really the matter of amplification. And there's no difference really between a band and a DJ, in my opinion, as far as the loudness goes. Even if a band, all these bands are amplified. They're not just up there playing without any amplification. They're amplified. So I really don't see the problem in allowing a band that stops at 9 o'clock on the deck as long as they don't overdo the amplification. And that's really up to the discretion of the police department. So if somebody complains and you walk over to, across the street to Deb's place and it's really loud, the cop should go over there and say, turn it down, it's too loud, turn the amplification down. And the Hugheses have done a nice job with that at the Shell for me. It's not nearly as bad as it used to be. So I think we need to try to work together and make compromises. I also feel, why not give them a trial period? I have no objections to the online ticketing. I don't think it's really going to chase people away, and some people won't read it and they'll show up, but you can give them a ticket at the door. But why not, let's see if they can keep it down. And if they can't, then we come back and they know that if they can't control this number of people, that they're going to get hit by us, and you're going to have to get the online ticket thing running. And I think that's fair. Let them give them a chance to. I really think the problem stemmed from the weekend of Memorial Day. But I do think, on the other hand, if we were to let you have a band, you've got to keep the amplification down. I shouldn't be standing a block away or over, say, at Morrison's or whatever it is now, and have to listen to a band as if it's in my backyard. That's not fair. But I don't even like to go to establishments where there's a band so loud that when I'm having a meal or something, that I can't talk to the people that are at the table with me. So I think it behooves them to keep the sound down. But that's how I feel. I think we should give them let's see how it goes. And we need to get that very clear. I think we need to also establish the hours of operation for the teen night. I read through that part in the ordinance, I think it was number 21 or something like that. I think that meant related more to the curfew. It was in the part of the resolution with the curfew, that, you know, that there is a curfew for kids under age that starts at midnight, so you would have to make sure they were out of there in plenty of time. So there really isn't an established hours of operation for teen night. Maybe there should be, but those are my thoughts on this.
Sure. You know, as I said before, you know, based on the chief recommendation of the last meeting, give them a chance. They've already eliminated what we've identified as a problem weekends, you know, the big holiday weekends. So I do stand with that, but I think there should be almost, you know, if one weekend goes awry, then that's it. It's one and done. I think you have one on Sunday. So if that one goes sideways, then nope, you know, it's online ticketing. I think there's got to be, give them a chance to prove themselves. As far as the band on the deck goes, I think I overheard, can we leave it as written, but write something in about a waiver if they want to have a bigger band, like you said, you want to have it once.
Special occasion.
Yeah, because then if we leave it that you can have a band, then next year you East Street band 6 months.
Right, you could do it every night, but, you know, that's a good compromise, because that way we can see how well it works.
Yeah, so I think that's one way of addressing that. And as far as the timing of it, you know, shall end no later than 12. I think we have to move that up to 11 or 11:30 to give a chance for the kids to get out of the establishment and out of town. And I think, as you know, Ms. Whitcraft said, if they're out at 12 o'clock, open up the door, which is permissible by number 12 in the ordinance, then they're already in violation of the curfew. That's kind of not ideal, in my opinion. Those are my thoughts on that.
Okay.
Councilwoman Rutherford or Mayor Lambert?
Okay, I'll jump in. I still feel that the online registration is the fairest way to go for everyone. Like I said, you know, this has been on our mind since last year, and we had a lot of problems. And after Memorial Day, whether it's a holiday or not, I think it shows that we need more help. And I think whether it works or not, there's one way to find out. And, you know, it seems like this is kind of what the public is urging too. So I'm in favor of no trial period, because I think that's already come and gone, truthfully. I am in favor of the online ticket. I think, you know, if you want to talk about a special occasion band, give it a trial, possibly, we can work on that. And obviously the curfew and the time that they're letting out needs to be addressed. Those are my thoughts.
Is it my turn to speak?
Yes, go ahead, Chris.
All right, I can't tell if you can hear me, sorry. All right, so this is what I'm taking away from this. Let's quickly, first we'll address the band situation. I am in agreement that I believe that the recommendation or the suggestion of 2 to 9 for bands and live music is a good compromise, because that reduces the time that they'll actually be there playing. And I think that's specific to the request of the licensee. They were asking for 2 to 9 bands and live DJ. What to say what Nancy had said about the amplification sound, that is definitely the discretion of the police. I believe that, you know, we can work with that. Obviously, that can also be brought back up on administrative charges if there is an issue with that, and we can dictate that. So I'm okay with bands, live music. Secondly, teen night. To address the time frame of teen night, yes, I do believe that it needs to be specific to the licensee. if they're having teen night. So I do think that the time frame that they are asking for, 9 to 11, should be put in there. So by 11:30, everyone should be dispersed, because then that, as what Ms. Whitcraft said, they're in automatic violation of the curfew if they are let out at 12 o'clock. I know another establishment that kind of runs that line a little too closely. So I'd like the 9 to 11 timeframe. Regarding the teen night and the online ticketing, I will again make my statement that I do believe that online ticketing it's not hard to do. We have it on the beach badges. There's people who can buy preseason beach badges via online ticketing, and there's people who choose not to, and we do it right there online on the beach. So regardless, I'm just making that statement. So I do believe that it is something that could be up and running fairly quickly. I understand it's an inconvenience, fine. I would be willing to do I would like to see the trial to give them the opportunity to show, because I believe the only teen night they've had so far has been the Memorial Day teen night. I know there was conversations at the beginning of the year, and we talked about this last year. You need to get this in check. But clearly, as we've been listening, I think they understand that we want to be able to, they want to be good business owners, and they want to support the community. They are trying to work through this, but they also are a business. So mission is to do a 2-week at least trial. So that would be the 6/26 date and the 7/10 date. And if there are issues even with either of those dates, then they come back on administrative charges. Yes, to piggyback on what Mr. Pillar said, we are a destination. Do I like it? You all know where I live, right in the heart of a lot of that stuff. So I see it all the time. Sometimes it's just some things that we have to deal with. So I'm willing to make this work for them.
Chief, I just had a quick question for you. So when someone calls in a noise complaint, what's the difference when there is a DJ versus a band? Because what I'm going back and forth with in my mind is, again, like you mentioned, like this isn't related to who owns this establishment now and who owned the establishment in the past. The liquor license itself is a historical document based on the location of the actual establishment. So the reason the conditions are put forth is because of the location where the establishment is in that particular location. So originally there were, and I don't know this as a fact, probably bands on the deck.
That was before my time, but that's with the historical documents you had. I believe that's what the there were lawsuits that stemmed from it.
So for a noise complaint, is it a lot easier to go into an establishment and say, can you, with a DJ, can you turn that down? It's a lot easier to turn down a DJ versus stopping a whole performance of a band.
We've done that numerous times with other bars that have both bands and DJs. It's much easier for the DJ to turn down his speakers. A lot of times with the bands are kind of set with just how loud they're playing. It gets, that's just what we've had. But when we're dealing with noise complaints, we deal with them all the same way. We get a noise complaint for a location, we go to that location and we document that, where we were when you could first start to hear the music, and a block away, 2 blocks away, it was unreasonably loud. And as you get closer, you just document how much more unreasonable it is. And now that we have body cameras too, that also helps with documentation.
So it is a lot easier to tell a DJ to turn.
It's definitely easier to tell a DJ to turn something down. I believe the bands probably have some of the same equipment. They can turn stuff down. We've just ran into some problems where the bands just don't want to do that. They're live. They want to be there. They want people amped up. It's more difficult to get them to actually turn it down.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, based off what the chief said, and in agreement with Mayor Lambert, as far as the online ticketing, that's something I think should be put into effect this year. If it does not help with the line, then it's something that we can revisit next year. As far as the bands, like I said, this is establishment in a historical location. There used to be bands there. I don't think that bans are necessary in that area. That balance between the residents around that area, it's easier to turn down a DJ than it is for a band. So that's how I feel on both of those issues.
So are you saying you wouldn't allow for even a special event ban?
I don't even know how you would write that in there. I mean,
Well, I think
if
you
one
could.
special event turns into 8 special, I don't know how to physically, write that in. I mean, you can have bands inside.
They would have to.
I just don't, I mean, it's a.
Yeah, I know, and I, to be perfectly truthful, I am very familiar with the Acme Bar and Marlin and whatever it's been over the years, but I don't believe, the deck used to be quite small and most of the bands were in the area where the teen night is. But I don't think Mike Batiste ever had a lot of bands out there. But I personally think that, having a couple, I mean, you put a limit on it or see how it goes, but I mean, that deck is much bigger than it ever was before. And I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I don't think it's anymore. Personally, I understand because each guy in the band has an amplifier on his instrument. So you've got to get all the instruments to turn down. Whereas a DJ's got a record going and he's got one big amp, he has one knob he can turn. But I mean, really having a band, I've been to a lot of places where they have a band and it's not obnoxious. And I don't see the problem in doing that a couple times a year for a special event. I don't think it's that hard to, I don't know, Sherry, is it that hard to have them come for a special event? I mean, you would know more than me.
Well, it sounds like from what we just heard from each member of council that the majority of the members would like to see a compromise here. And I see that you drafted something first. Can you share that to see if we can come to some kind of compromise on number 5 and make sure that everyone's clear before we move on to the next change?
Sure, and obviously this is subject to however the council wants to tweak it, or adopt it at all. The licensee may seek a waiver from council of this provision in order to allow a band in excess of a duo, which band shall not play before 2 p.m. nor after 9 p.m.
And just so we're clear, the provision still says that they need to be set up in the portion closest to the east side of the building. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that
There's
is
nothing else
included.
changed from that.
Yeah. Nancy?
I mean, I'm perfectly agreeable to that.
So they have to come to us.
If they want something larger than a duo, correct?
Yes.
They would have to, because I know other special events, it's up to,
This is a special condition on a liquor
so
license.
it's up to us. Yeah, all right.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, the next one was number 12 on the license where it says that it shall end no later than 12 a.m. Were we looking to change that to 11:30 p.m.?
Yeah, I mean, 11 might be better, but 11:30, I mean, I think you have to start trying to get people out around 11.
Skip, can you come up to this microphone? Is 11 o'clock agreeable?
I think that's what,
11:30?
hi again, for the record, Skip Real. Yeah, I mean, the licensee has said affirmatively that it ends its teen nights at 11 o'clock. That gives them an hour, gives the teenagers as well as the business an hour to get everybody on their way and hopefully where they belong before curfew.
Okay, and that's all that would change because later in the sentence, it says that the licensee shall not permit persons under the age of 21 on the premises at any time after 12 a.m. and that should remain.
Well, I've discussed that with Mr. Padula. I mean, that sort of, it eliminates, 18, 19, 20-year-olds from stopping and having dinner. I mean, there is, that particular language, has some constitutional dimensions to it. I mean, it is what it is, whatever you do, we'll figure out what our next step is. But I think that language, as I had discussed with Mr. Badul earlier, I guess last week, was of concern as it related to the constitutional implications.
Okay, I think that's all we're going.
What about the trial period versus having the online.
Okay, so
That was divided among council.
again, based on what I've heard from the comments of council, that you would prefer to change 12.3, which currently reads, on teen night, the licensed establishment must establish and utilize an online ticket reservation system. All teen night attendees must present an electronic ticket purchased through the online system for admittance. You'd prefer to switch that to licensee understands and is on notice that failing to manage ingress, egress, and overflow of teen night patrons constitutes a nuisance, which may subject licensee to, among other things, administrative charges, which may result in the imposition of special conditions that may include, but not be limited to, the requirement of an online ticket and/or reservation system.
I agree. with you.
Dan?
Do we give them, how many opportunities? One, two?
I think the first, they can, if they blow it the first night, then they get another.
I wouldn't put a specific number in there.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go this route at all,
How do we act?
it'd be an administrative charges that I would draft. And they will be brought before you. It's similar to like a municipal court summons, but they will come through.
But they would cease operations. Some things take a while to get in motion.
You could move it pretty quickly, but it depends. It's hard to answer hypothetically because we wouldn't know what the situation would be, but most likely it would proceed while the
Depends how long this charge take to resolve.
So, Bruce,
for 60 days.
Go ahead, Chris.
sorry, I missed that. So Bruce, you're saying that you would not recommend putting in a number value for 12.3. Is that what you said?
Right, Dan's question was whether you give them one chance, two chances, or something like that. I would just leave it that they're placed on notice, if you wanted to go that route, that if this is a problem, there may be a consequence.
Okay.
Okay, can I jump in here? As I heard that there's a lot of may, possibly, and all that. I don't understand that. Why aren't we just saying this is what will happen? Because now we don't have a number. Half the summer could be gone before anything happens if this all goes south. And it seems like we're being kind of wishy-washy here, truthfully.
My concern just from a legal perspective is, how do we know that it goes south? What's the trigger? Could we do it based on a call for service or a certain type of charge that's implemented? That's my concern with doing, kind of leaving the ambiguous language, I guess you would say.
And you're,
No.
that is absolutely,
Yeah.
No. Can I throw in?
He was not against.
Use your mic.
Because he was not against the trial period, so if he feels that it's failed, can that be triggered? The other thing that concerns me is if we decide to do that, then there's a 30-60 day window, the rest of the summer, they can continue on operating.
Yeah.
Are you gonna help us resolve?
Yeah, I'm gonna help you resolve.
Let's let him. All right.
I'm going to help you resolve. The minute you say in a resolution, result in administrative charges, you tie your own hands. Because the first thing is, Mr. Padula is correct. It's going to take a process. You actually have to have a hearing. You're going to have witnesses called. Then you get to appeal it. If it comes out badly for the licensee, we all get to run off to Trenton to 140 East Front Street and deal with the division. That's not the way you want to go. Because he's right. You're right, Councilman. The summer will be gone before we get a resolution, and then we'll be worrying about next year's license. My suggestion to you, having sat where Mr. Padula sits and doing this, my suggestion is that you don't need charges. That's why I said you don't need administrative charges to bring them in and basically do this. If you find out after, and council, I guess it was Councilwoman Rutherford said you got the next 2 dates, and if it doesn't work, you basically give them a notice. You're not going to do it and say, we want you down. You can hold a special meeting. the way you're doing right now. You bring them in and say, this isn't working. We're now adding a condition of online ticketing. You don't build in the delay. I mean, I'm not giving up my clients. I'm just speaking as to what the law is. But the bottom line is that you're giving up control because you're going to set in place a procedural component of this that you don't want to do because I guarantee you, as a lawyer, you'll never have a hearing if I'm representing them before or after September.
You agree with that?
Not totally. I mean, I feel we have an obligation to provide some basic due process and what's the difference between delaying a hearing or delaying a meeting among the licensees and borough officials. But we might be able to come up with some language that we could put in here that automatically triggers this judgment rather than providing for some administrative charges, meetings or things like that.
I think that would be better.
Yeah, I do too. You
Can-
want to automatically trigger it if they don't comply. I personally think they want to be good neighbors. They'll probably comply.
Yeah, I'd like to give them the opportunity to follow through on what they claimed that, the problems they had last season with, off the board. But I don't want to set us up for some of the problems if it doesn't work out. So if we can set a trigger and have it be able to go for some reason.
May I? I think Councilman, the way you want it, the way I would suggest you handle it, and you got to do what you think is right. Don't get me wrong. I think you basically say, okay, you got this one, you got the next one. If it's not, the chief reports to you, this isn't working. You give them a notice, they come right in and you deal with it. There is almost no delay because it either is going to work or it isn't going to work. And there's not going to be a whole lot of wiggle room, I think, in our understanding collectively of what happens. It either does or it doesn't. So, I mean, I think you're better off, quite frankly, as a governing body in maintaining control if you do it the other way. So, that's my 2 cents. Okay. And if I might as well, while I'm here, with your permission, I think trying to create a waiver program in the context of a band, I think it's going to be a procedural nightmare either for the chief or for the administrator. Again, as I think Councilwoman, commented before, Doctor, there's really no distinction. It's more about a question of you have a hammer, you have an ordinance. You can always issue a summons to anybody who's got a noise violation, right? I mean, we all understand that. But the practical reality is that you go out there and you tell a band or a DJ to turn it down. But there is another process. And I think this waiver, I understand and appreciate the council trying to come up with some alternatives, but I just don't see practically how that works without turning into just a nightmare for everybody concerned. I really don't.
Leader would like, to have a waiver for her holiday. That's how we're trying to get it done. Not that it's going to be a routine thing. She's asking for one particular occasion and that was the purpose. So I don't think it's going to be a hardship for us.
You could write that, if that's where you're going to go, you simply write in that they're allowed to have a band between 2 and 7 or 2 and 9 on the 4th of July. Just write that into your resolution. That's a condition they're allowed to do. But trying to create a waiver, process is, I think, really, it's going to tie us up in knots. It's not effective. I don't think it accomplishes what you really want to do. So, but thank you, Council President, for indulging me.
I have an idea, but I don't want to float it without talking to the council first. So if you prefer, I'd recommend a short executive session to talk about it. Everybody's okay with that? Yeah, we just need a motion for attorney-client communication.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Colleen and Chris, if you could mute your cameras here, and then we'll buzz you into executive session in the other room. Thank you.
Well, that's what Chris. Hey, Bruce, before you go back. Make sure you understand, when we talk about the bands at 9 o'clock, I'm not talking. Yeah, just the band. Yeah.
Jim? You have a mask on you? Oh, I got it. Run.
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
Okay, if I sit here?
Sure.
Just easier.
Chris, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Now, hang on.
We're gonna reconvene the public portion of the meeting. It's 6:14 PM.
Okay. The licensee was provided with a draft copy of the resolution, as was council. It's draft resolution 147-2022. I'm just going to discuss some changes to the written draft. In paragraph 12, where it refers to 12 a.m. in two different sections, those sections are going to be revised to 11:30 p.m. So, I'm sorry, only the first reference to 12 a.m. is going to be changed to 11:30 p.m. So it'll read, teen night when persons between the ages of 16 and 22 inclusive are permitted guests at the licensed establishment when offered shall end no later than 11:30 p.m. No other changes are made to that paragraph. And 12.3 is revised in its entirety to the licensee understands and is on notice that failing to manage ingress, egress, and overflow of teen night patrons constitutes a nuisance, which may subject licensee to, among other things, administrative charges, which may result in the imposition of special conditions that may include, but not be limited to, the requirement of an online ticket and or reservation system. That's the language we read previously, which I can send you a copy of. So
Please.
you don't have to write it.
I'm not trying to.
That's it.
There are no other changes, so that would include, the council has determined not to make the changes related to the ban that were discussed earlier.
Okay.
So if that's acceptable to council, we just need a motion to approve it in a second.
So moved.
Nope.
Second.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Davis,
Yes.
Mrs. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
On the basis of the online registration, no.
Thank you. I had one other resolution for approval today, 158/2022, regarding the negotiated contract with wireless communications. Unfortunately, I was not able to get through the required documents to enter into the contract for today, so I won't be considering that resolution today. I'll hopefully have it on for the next meeting.
Madam President, members of council, I want to thank you for the courtesies on behalf of Bird and Betty's. Obviously, we will be appealing to the director. We will probably file that appeal on probably 24 hours after we receive a copy of the updated resolution that's been adopted tonight. So I would anticipate we'll file the appeal before the end of the month. But again, I thank you for your courtesies and as well as the willingness to work with us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, actually.
Now, public comment to anything else? Anyone on Zoom?
Any person on Zoom wish to be heard for public comment on any matter?
Public comment, William Burris, 100 Northwest Avenue. I just find it interesting that the borough continues to spend legal fees on matters that just really don't make any sense. We already have the 500 North Bay Avenue legal system where people were sold units and aren't given the tax abatements they were supposed to get. And now that we have to file an appeal because we can't have a ban on the 4th of July, is just all because of someone in 1990 whose ultimate license would have been revoked had we not bought the building. It just seems it's not appropriate, given that other people in town have the ability to have bands. Doesn't make sense, and obviously we have to appeal, and you're going to spend legal fees, and that doesn't make any sense for this town to continue doing this stuff. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on any issue?
Mike Wheeler?
Yes, I'm back and I'm a little disappointed and you're not realizing that it's to everybody's advantage that everybody is successful and everybody's doing what they have to do to make the town successful. And you're looking at the whole thing wrong, and I'm sorry to see that. Anyway, enjoy the weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else on Zoom wish to be heard for public comment? Seeing none.
Seeing none? Okay, final remarks by council. Let's start,
I have nothing to say.
I don't believe you.
Yeah. I want to go. Let's adjourn. That's what I'm.
Okay, Mayor Lambert or Councilwoman Rutherford?
Nothing to say.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you also to the members of the Bird and Betty's crew for coming, doing their best to try to work through this with us. I know that it is challenging as it is. And just want to let you know that we have to look at this as a whole for what's best for our community. So I do appreciate your time. And that's it. Thanks. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Thank you.
Thank you.